So, Jasdeep, thank you so much for joining in on this conversation, on this call. Would you throw some light about your organization, Invisible Illness?
Sure. So I'll just give a brief introduction about myself, if that's okay. And
Yes.
I am Jasdeep. I run a mental health organization called Invisible Illness India, and I'm a neuropsychologist by degree. So we, as an organization, primarily actually cater to corporate well-being, which is like the youth that is in our working population. Is by WHO, it was announced in 2017 that the youth of India is severely depressed, has a lot of anxiety, a lot of burnout that's taking place. And it's mainly like through a report they had analyzed and understood that this is mainly happening because of workplace culture, organizational pressures. So our aim, was then to sort of try to rectify that, because the youth of our nation is the future, is the future of our country. And in order to safeguard our future, we have to safeguard the youth. So our aim is and will remain to be, to focus on the population that is most impressionable and also most susceptible right now to just pressures in terms of anxiety, depression, stress, burnout, and as we call it, the garden variety issues that are being faced by the youth.
And so my whole platform, it gives a lot of eyeballs, it gets a lot of visibility. So the whole agenda is to throw a lot of light in how we can transform education systems. And like you rightly pointed out that, youth in the country is facing a lot of pressure, anxiety. There's a lot of competition as is to excel in whatever field that they've chosen. So how can we, lessen that burden that they feel? And that begins from the grassroots level, which is your school curriculum, your school system. And I think what you have introduced, talking about through the medium of art, how do you lessen the burden that they feel in schools is so important, because that's how they gain that emotional intelligence, that emotional training. So would you want to throw some light on what exactly is emotional training?
So emotional intelligence and emotional training, they sort of go hand in hand. And these are, we do actually work with schools as well. And we have worked with a lot of, the education department in general, where emotional training is trying to educate at a really early age. So emotional training is really a stepwise process of being able to understand, comprehend our own emotions first, and accept them, because we are always told, don't cry, smile, smiling is good for you. So we're always from childhood, these are very, they're such normal things. When you think about it, it doesn't seem so jarring. But what it's actually doing is it's taking you 3-4 steps behind and actually being trained to have emotional agility or emotional knowledge in general. Like, how do I be aware of my emotions? How do I accept them and not be ashamed that, oh, I cried, or oh, I'm feeling nervous? I shouldn't feel shame for these things. So emotional training is the process of that form of acceptance to begin with. Recognition, acceptance, and also then intervention. Like, now that I am feeling this and I have accepted it, what are the steps I can take? Like, we are never taught to, let out our emotions or, write down our emotions. We're always taught that be nice, be kind, don't say bad things, don't get angry. But it's so normal to get angry. We should allow our children to, feel that, be able to feel anger and feel it appropriately. That's the answer. That, don't get angry and hit people. Get angry and tell them why you're angry, and try to communicate that. So that journey from acceptance, realization to intervention is what emotional training is all about.
And that, I feel like, needs to be incorporated within school systems, but there's still a lot of stigma which is associated with it. Like, a lot of schools, a lot of, even the government is sort of afraid of adding these things into their systems. Why do you think that is? Like, even in India, it's supposed to be one of the most depressive countries, but we still don't take the problem of mental health seriously.
Because India is also a country that has a lot of faith-based interventions or approaches that take
Right.
place. And everything is first applied through faith or through religion, which may not always be a bad thing. And I understand that it all has its own benefits and it has its value. However, some problems cannot be dealt with just that. It has to have more modalities to approach it rather than just one approach that you're trying very hard to force onto it, but it's not working. So the stigma actually in our country comes from वो पागल है उसमें भूत आ गया है. For example, they're possessed or
Right.
they're, and this is still very common practice. Of course, we live in big cities. We are fortunate enough to have great healthcare. So it's not one of our basic needs per se. For me, I technically look at it as a basic need. However, it's not food, clothing, shelter, right? So
Right.
I feel like as a country, we are still trying to satisfy first two levels of needs, and then we'll sort of move up the pyramid. And I believe that we are going to get there. I do think that it's a process because we are a very large country with a very large population, and it takes time to get through to reach that point. And educating such a large group is a feat of a task. It's not easy. And I think, the first step is now the insurance has come out, which is
LIC, from LIC, right? That they're medically insuring someone who has a mental illness, which is a huge step. That's
yes.
true. It's a huge
So
step.
I feel like we are getting there. It's going to take baby steps, but there are a lot of schools today that have actually started emotional training, even though it's not in the government curriculum. Private schools do have, how they have like an honors program on the side and stuff like that. They do have like extracurriculars going on which focus on emotional intelligence, emotional health.
I really hope that we come to see like a world where mental wellness is given equal importance. And just like you mentioned, if someone was there to relieve us of our pressure during our 10th or 12th, we would have taken a lot more easier on ourselves. We wouldn't be so harrowed and beating ourselves up for our grades. When in reality, it's like even though you pursue a particular career path, the real gift of education is confidence in yourself, the exposure to different possibilities in your life.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be emphasized more. And that begins with mental wellness. So
absolutely.
I feel, this is why I feel like so passionately about incorporating this and revamping like the kind of old age system of education that we're still continuing to follow. It does not cater to the needs that we need right now. And even though we talk like from a standpoint of privilege, it has to start somewhere. And that's how it's going to trickle down, and that's how people will understand the importance of it.
Absolutely. And you said that so beautifully, that the biggest advantage of education is confidence.
Yeah.
I could not have said it better myself. I swear that is literally the essence of education is confidence, and all of that banks on emotional health. I mean, mental health or emotional health, whatever.
Honestly, I remember my professor like telling me that you are pursuing architecture, which is a 5-year course, only to like end up doing modeling or enter pageantry. Like, what use is your degree then? And I felt really bad then, but I sort of thought to myself that, the actual gift is really the confidence or the courage or even the understanding that this is not working out for me. Maybe my skill set lies somewhere else. And all of that requires that emotional intelligence, emotional training. And I think if kids were made to feel okay to not do the same path that their parents are forcing them to, or society's like pressuring them to, we would see like a different kind, we would see happier people, basically.
100%.
Yeah, and I also like hate it when people say that if you open up, then you're weak or you're soft. That's one thing that you hear so much of, especially like your own teachers sometimes become the problem by telling that, you're too weak or you're too soft to cry about this. Or, just in my days or in my generation, we suffered and we endured so much. Then why is your generation so soft and, demanding so much? So I hate that portrayal of mental wellness so much. And that needs to be addressed first, like mindset shift, and then comes the solution to it.
Absolutely. And I think all of this happens from a place of ignorance. It comes from a place of just not knowing what mental suffering actually feels like.
I would say, is there any like closing message regarding mental wellness? I know you're doing a lot of great work, and I just hope that, it just progresses more and more, and this whole conversation reaches and amplifies the whole reason why we're having this talk, to add mental wellness in education systems for people to break out of that stigma. So anything else, like a closing message you would like to share?
I always share two things in general to close. One is that the only way, and this is like said by someone really famous, so I don't want to, I don't want to take credit.
Just paraphrasing.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm also going to quote him. So Harvey Milk, who used to fight for gay rights, he said, like, he was once asked by a really young, enthusiastic person that, how can I help the movement? And Harvey Milk just replied saying, go out and talk about it. And I truly believe that, as simple as it is the answer. Like, the more conversations we have, the more likely we are to overcome the hurdles we spoke about. And the second thing I always like to say is, be kind to not just yourself. I mean, not just others, but also yourself. Because I think it's easier to be kind to others, but very hard to do to yourself. So these are the two closing messages I always give. So I'm sticking to that.
I love that. I actually resonated with the Harvey Milk quote, because I was thinking, I don't know if this is, like going to reach people. Will people have the bandwidth to actually go through, our conversations online? But like I don't know, just validated this whole, conversation, that go out and talk to people, have more conversations. Like, what's the harm that you can do? Like, maybe one person may have a mindset shift because of this, and that's more than enough.